Imagine a country on the brink of collapse, with its entire foundation shattered in an instant. Picture the chaos as a once thriving nation, home to over 52 million people, now reduced by half its population, dwindling to just 25 million. Birth rates plummeted fourfold, and its future looks bleak. The economy? Collapsing. Debt skyrocketing. Hospitals and infrastructure teetering on the edge of ruin. The United States has withdrawn all financial support. They refuse to invest in a country sliding into chaos. This isn't just a crisis anymore, it's the definitive end of what Ukraine used to be. As the turmoil intensifies, a figure named Mindy, the leader of the political system, suddenly finds himself caught in the crosshairs. Once celebrated as a trusted partner of influential circles from Israel to the country's core, now he's under arrest. This is no ordinary political scandal, it's a storm ripping through the very fabric of power. Friends and allies, who once reveled in hidden financial flows and exclusive meetings planning the rise of new billionaires, are swiftly disappearing. Some fled, leaving behind only their documents. Others were detained, including a mysterious investigator called Min Abu. The anti-corruption agencies, previously regarded as decorative showpieces, suddenly surge into action. People previously deemed untouchable are being caught: business magnates, energy sector advisors, members of the elite arrested in rapid succession. Today, 5 top officials are behind bars. Their families, their assets, their secrets, everything is on the table. The speed of this crackdown is staggering. As if orchestrated from the highest levels, with teams arriving from both Kiev and distant Washington. This reveals the shocking reality: Min Abu, a structure controlled by external forces, is now executing a systematic purge. In this paradoxical scene, the president's inner circle is fleeing the country. Friends and confidants, once trusted allies, are now running across borders, trying to escape the web of investigations. Meanwhile, those involved in financial crimes are questioned about billions of dollars that mysteriously disappeared, funds that seem to vanish overnight. The system is collapsing in real time, and no one knows who will be next. The entire political machine, built over years, is crumbling before our eyes. And then it gets even more bizarre. Just hours after the first arrests, a prominent figure named Sergei Prichilov suddenly emerges. Out of nowhere, he starts talking about billion-dollar fortunes, revealing his own stake in the chaos. An enormous collection of wealth, carefully hidden from the public eye, suddenly appears. His story adds fuel to a burning question: why now? With the economy in free fall and trust evaporating, this reveal seems less about truth and more about a strategic move to divert attention. Is this a new power play? A ploy to divert the public from the true scale of corruption? The timing suggests a calculated move, one that could tip the entire country into chaos or control. As this dramatic scene unfolds, the country stands on the edge of a precipice. Power is shifting, secrets are spilling, and the old system is breaking down. Who will prevail? The answer remains hidden, but one thing is clear: Ukraine's future is slipping away faster than anyone could imagine. The question is, how will this story end? Recent events reveal a shocking wave of arrests: 5 individuals detained in rapid succession. Not just businessmen, but energy sector advisors and influential figures suspected of massive financial crimes. Family members of high-ranking officials are now under investigation. The speed of these actions is astonishing. As soon as the authorities acted, the entire operation was swift. Teams dispatched from both Kiev and distant Washington. You see, Min Abu is not just a name here, it's a creation directly controlled by the United States. Once the decision was made to clamp down on the Zelensky family's inner circle, no further delays were tolerated. The situation became a paradox: inside the House of Power, allies are fleeing the border, while those previously in the shadows now sit before investigators answering for hundreds of millions missing from state funds. And this is just the beginning. No one can predict who will be next or how far this purge will extend. What was once whispered about with secrecy is now out in the open. The entire system is rapidly closing in, guarded by 3 firm shields protecting the core. Min Abu has become the symbol, the point of no return, marking the final chapter of the Zelensky influence and the irreversible decline of Ukraine as we once knew it. The strangest part? Immediately after the initial arrests and the revelation of Min Abu's downfall, it seemed the authorities should have vanished into hiding, covering their tracks. Instead, suddenly, Sergei Prichilov emerges. Out of nowhere, he begins unveiling a massive collection of personal stories, revealing a fortune worth billions. There's a chilling sense that all these events are connected. The collapse is accelerating, and the truth is unraveling faster than anyone ever expected. In the chaos that unfolded, authorities had to abandon their posts suddenly, disappearing overnight. No one expected it, an abrupt, almost surreal move. Just hours after the first arrests and suspicions swirling through the air, Sergei Prichilov emerges from nowhere, presenting a staggering collection of stories, a billionth of a currency unit. What's more shocking? This wasn't an isolated event, it was the beginning of a storm that would shake the very foundation of the nation. The country's economy was crumbling, hidden from view behind smokescreens of lies and cover-ups. People were fleeing, donors had evaporated, and trust in the system was collapsing with each passing month. Amidst this chaos, a statement appears about a colossal stash of wealth seemingly designed to overshadow and overwrite previous scandals, to drown out the noise with an even louder echo. Prichilov, once just a minor figure hardly seen on screens or in public, now becomes the focal point. Speculation swirls about his possible role in shaping the country's future. The facts paint a grim picture, corruption investigations swirl around Zelensky's inner circle, yet a new media character suddenly emerges. Is this an orchestrated attempt to fracture the public's trust? To create a parallel authority that diverts attention from the crumbling old power structure? The timing couldn't be stranger. Just after Mindich flees Israel, after hours spent in the desert's warmth, a whirlwind of uncertainty, Prichilov surfaces with his billion-dollar stash. Such a dramatic spectacle rarely happens in a country where every detail is meticulously crafted and carefully backed by powerful means. But the pressing question remains, why $1 billion? Why now? Who benefits from this enormous collection of wealth? And what does it reveal about the true state of the nation? As discussions about arrests and financial scandals intensify, this enormous cash seems less about money, more like a desperate attempt to rally the battered society, to support the military, or possibly, the last refuge of a dying regime. Amidst the demagoguery, economic disaster, and waning trust, this massive treasure appears as a lifeline, an effort to bolster the army or to preserve the remnants of authority. But is it enough? Or does it mark the final chapter of a once powerful nation slipping irreversibly into chaos? The signs suggest this isn't just about money, this is about survival. Yet, the questions linger, who will be left holding the pieces when it all finally crumbles? In the face of advancing forces and chaos, some individuals gather billions. But do they do it out of belief in victory or simply because they sense it might be too late? Today, notable elites are fleeing to distant lands like Israel, Europe, and Georgia, carrying enormous sums of money. These moves aren't signs of stability, they're acts of abandon, signals that the entire system is racing ahead of its supposed masters. All of this noise, all this chaos, it's not about justice or legality. It's just a distraction. The core truth? Ukraine's collapse is unfolding at breakneck speed. For over a decade, experts warned about economic stagnation, about demagogues spreading illusions, about officials who only pretended to understand how a true state functions. Now, that stagnation isn't just a warning, it's reality. Ukraine is dying right before our eyes, losing people faster than any investigation or reform can keep pace. Their population, once officially 52 million in the 1990s, has shrunk dramatically. Today, official figures cite just 30 million, but the real numbers are far more tragic. The occupied territories, Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, those who fled, those who are unregistered, add millions to the true count. In truth, only around 22 to 25 million remain living within the borders in some form. And that's not mere pessimism, it's analysis rooted in facts. The most terrifying loss isn't just numbers, it's the vanished population's future. The birth rate has plummeted so drastically that even the most optimistic reforms, the heaviest investments, or political tricks have no hope to reverse the decline. Back in 2013, Ukraine still saw approximately 500,000 births annually, a sign of life, of stability. Fast forward to today, and the birth rate has fallen to around 120,000, a catastrophic drop that foretells an existential crisis. Population decline isn't just a statistic, it's a death sentence for an entire country. With every passing year, the gap widens, fewer children, fewer workers, fewer future. Can even the most advanced policies prevent this? Or is Ukraine doomed to fade into obscurity, its existence predestined to vanish? The numbers scream the answer. The end is near, unless drastic change arises from an unlikely place. In the heart of a nation crumbling beneath our feet, a devastating truth emerges: Ukraine is no longer a country, it's a shadow of itself. Millions of lives are vanishing faster than anyone predicted. The question is, what is truly left of this once vibrant land? Do you feel the icy grip of despair? Or the faint echo of hope slipping away? Now, let's connect the dots. The massive wave of demagoguery, the empty promises from leaders, the superficial promises of stability, none of it can hide the collapsing foundation. The country's population is shrinking at an alarming rate. From 52 million to just 30 million, and counting. In some regions, births plummet from 500,000 a year to barely 120,000. The streets once alive with children's laughter now echo with silence. Demagoguery might fool the masses for a moment, but the truth is brutal: without people, no economy, no future, no Ukraine. The economy is unraveling as if it's already dead. Half the workforce vanished, either fighting, fleeing, or hiding. Young men are on the battlefield or cowering behind borders. The elderly are left behind, trapped, vulnerable, bearing the weight of collapse. Hospitals overflow with the sick, pensions vanish into the void. Once, the relationship between workers and retirees balanced on a thin wire. Now, its shattered. Pensions are just paper promises. No funds, no payments, nothing but empty words. The entire system is teetering on the brink of collapse, and nobody can hide the pain anymore. Isn't it startling? Ukraine's survival depends on something simple: people. Without them, the country becomes a ghost. Yet, the collective effort to rebuild is futile if the youth refuse to stay. Their departure is not just a departure, it's the death knell for the nation itself. How much longer can a country breathe before it's permanently gone? Are you prepared to witness the end of the Ukraine we once knew, its history, its culture, its soul, all slipping away into oblivion? This isn't about politics or superficial measures anymore. It's about stark numbers, numbers that tell the story of a nation bleeding out. The delivery of basic needs, food, health, stability, has become impossible. The great illusion of government stability is collapsing faster than it was built. The reality hits hard: Ukraine is losing its future, its people, its very existence. The question remains: how long can this facade last before the final curtain falls? Imagine a country on the brink of collapse, where everything seems to be falling apart at once. The population shrinks rapidly, the economy is crumbling, and the political system is in free fall. This isn't just crisis management, this is a total system failure. How much longer can a nation survive when its core foundations, its people, are vanishing faster than they can be replaced? Now, picture this chaos: pensions disappear, workers vanish, and the Western Allies' support crumbles like fragile ice. Every sound is a distant echo of broken promises, the cracking of infrastructure, the whispers of despair. The government scrambles to patch the cracks, but the cracks grow, revealing an unfixable abyss. This isn't just a decline, it's a complete breakdown of the country's very ability to exist. In the midst of this chaos, a brutal new form of mobilization is unfolding. It's not training soldiers for battle, it's grabbing everyone regardless of their condition, age, or eligibility. The authorities are indiscriminately conscripting the sick, the elderly, even those without documents. Imagine the shuffling footsteps, the frantic fall of human dignity. The sick lie in hospital beds, children watch in terror, and the disabled are forcibly taken. All of this under the guise of a national emergency, but it's really a desperate attempt to cling to power as the country dies around them. Why is this happening? Because there are no resources left, no manpower, no hope, no capacity to sustain this collapsing nation. Instead of truth, officials spew blame the local voices, blame foreign influences. Blame everything but the real problem: the systemic death of the country itself. As the population drains away, governments claim they're fighting for survival, but deep down, everyone knows it's a battle already lost. And behind the scenes, questions form like shadows in the dark: how long can this charade continue? What remains of Ukraine after all this chaos? Will the country ever recover, or are we witnessing its final moments? The answers hang heavy in the air, thick with smoke and the scent of loss. From the muted echoes of deserted streets to the silence of empty homes, everywhere, the country seems to whisper its final goodbyes. This isn't just a story of political failure, it's a tragedy of human scale: patients in hospitals, children in crumbling cities, old people left stranded, disappearing faster than expectations. This is the true face of despair when the very essence of nationhood erodes before our eyes. The end isn't distant anymore. It's here. It's now. And as the last echoes fade, the question remains, what will be left when this all finally collapses? The country is on its last legs, and yet the blame game continues. Officials focus on scapegoats, localists, social media, Russian music. But the real culprits remain unseen, those responsible for the nation's collapse. The Ukrainian people are left bewildered, questioning what's truly happening behind closed doors. Is it truly chaos or a calculated deception? Imagine the hum of distant artillery, the smell of burnt grass in the air, and soldiers hiding in the shadows. Despite the chaos, the authorities insist the nation's at peace, though the truth screams otherwise. Accusations fly like arrows. Everyone is guilty, except those tasked with fixing the disaster. The war that once raged openly is now reduced to whispers, yet the front lines tell a different story. Battalion numbers are a fraction of what they should be. Instead of hundreds, only a handful remain. This isn't propaganda, it's the voice of those who have seen the front lines with their own eyes. The mobilization? A farce, a nightmare. Police chase civilians, rounding them up under the cover of night. Streets echo with the shouts of wolves prowling for escape routes. People are snatched right from workplaces, caught in a web of lies woven into the so-called plan. But the plan is a joke. No country can summon 300,000 willing soldiers overnight, not with the current state of despair and disillusionment. The numbers don't add up, and the truth becomes even more grim. And the puppeteers? They sit comfortably far from the chaos. Krivanov, safely in Lithuania, giving advice on how to boost the army's strength while he remains miles away from the front. Where's his courage? Where's his voice? Meanwhile, the war hero, who once ran into battle, now languishes in an apartment somewhere in the Baltic states, silent, forgotten, hidden behind closed doors. Yura, wounded and barely clinging to life, now rests in a hospital after 2 weeks of fighting. He's a shadow of himself, yet he still speaks of mobilization, of hope, of action. And then there's Venker Getman, claiming to understand the grave situation from behind the safety of his car. He hasn't seen the front, nor does he intend to. His words are hollow, serving only to cover the reality: an impossible war effort, a country in collapse. What truly lies beneath this facade? Have those in power abandoned the front lines, leaving the nation to fend for itself? Or is this orchestrated chaos meant to mask deeper, darker truths? The nation's pulse is weak, its future uncertain. The real question is, who is truly in control, and how long can such deception last? Imagine a nation crumbling right before our eyes, its foundations cracking, its future slipping away. What if the signs of decay are so blatant that even the most blind can see them? We are witnessing Ukraine's final days of what we once knew. The question is, how did it come to this? What secrets lie behind the curtain of chaos and collapse? In recent months, chaos has become the new normal. The country's leaders are engulfed in scandals, arrests, and betrayals. Their voices are barely audible amid the deafening sounds of turmoil. Public trust evaporates with every failed promise. The very fabric of society is fraying. How can a nation survive when its own officials turn against it? The core of the crisis is staggering. The country's population has halved, 52 million down to barely 25. Birth rates plummet at 4 times the usual rate. Hospitals and pensions crumble, the social fabric unravels. With no economic support and international aid evaporating, the economy is on its last breath. The future is a shadow, leaving millions to flee or disappear into oblivion. Can a nation survive when its own people are leaving in droves? Behind the scenes, a silent war rages. The leadership is tangled in scandals involving billions and hidden assets. The country's elite scramble for survival, their greed fueling chaos. Meanwhile, the last remnants of the state's institutions are collapsing. The corruption runs so deep that even the supposed watchdog agencies are now targets of arrest. The sense of order is slipping away, replaced by a relentless descent into anarchy. How much more can a country endure when its leaders are caught in the web of their lies? The shocking part? This isn't just about political figures or economic collapses. It's about the collapse of hope itself. As power dissolves and the population continues to vanish, the question remains, what will rise from the ashes? Or is this the moment Ukraine ceases to exist as we knew it? The end is near, and yet, the future still waits, silent, uncertain, maybe forever changed. What's coming next? Will a new beginning emerge amid the ruins, or will this be the final chapter of a nation's story? The answers lie just beyond the horizon, hidden in the shadows of what was, and what is yet to be. As the nation spirals into chaos amid hollow promises and futile cover-ups, like a sinking ship where leaders shout of calm seas while waves crash relentlessly, we face the burning question, what rises from these ashes when the old world shatters beyond repair? Imagine the acrid smoke of a dying fire, curling through cracked streets where echoes of forgotten laughter fade into silence. The Ukraine we once knew, it's slipping away right before our eyes. Not in a sudden blaze, but in a slow, heartbreaking unraveling. Factories stand empty, their metal skeletons groaning under relentless wind. Families huddle in dim rooms, the chill seeping through thin walls, whispering of lost futures. Why fight the inevitable when the ground itself trembles with exhaustion? Yet, from these very ruins, something stirs. A new era flickers to life, fragile as a spark in the gathering dark. Not born of grand speeches or borrowed billions, but forged in the quiet resolve of those left behind. Picture weathered hands sifting through debris, unearthing seeds of hope amid the rubble. The population, once buzzing at 52 million, now whispers around 25. A halving that stings like salt in an open wound. Births plummeted from 500,000 in calmer days to a mere 120,000, each statistic a thunder. Ukraine is reaching its breaking point. The relationship with pensioners, once stable, now teeters on the edge of collapse. Most of the young population has already left, some fighting on the front lines, others hospitalized or hiding from authorities. The remaining elderly cannot escape, making them the most vulnerable victims of this crisis. What happens when a nation systematically loses its future? The core issue is simple yet devastating: if people leave, the economy stalls. No workers, no income, no taxes. Without economy, pensions vanish, an unreachable dream. Ukraine is barely holding on, kept alive by artificial breath from Western lenders. But cracks are appearing everywhere. The billions of euros allegedly promised, 140 billion from reparations, are now just a distant echo. No one understands where the money is supposed to come from, or why risking financial stability makes sense for a country that can't account for its billions. European investors are right to be cautious, warning that if Russian assets frozen abroad collapse, European funding will dry up. Brussels is already under pressure, struggling with its own risks. If the European Union pulls back, Ukraine risks becoming a fraud, a castle built on sand. America's stance is clearer yet colder. Former President Donald Trump made it explicit: no more financial support. He signaled that weapons sales are fair game, but direct aid? That's over. The U.S. has completely restricted the use of aid for refugees, halted new programs, cut off housing initiatives, everything. This isn't a temporary hold, it's a warning. Washington no longer wants to foot the bill. After the upcoming November elections, Ukraine will receive only what it manages to extract itself. The country has long been sinking beneath these burdens, unable to sustain itself. Meanwhile, in the backdrop of this chaos, Germany plans to increase aid from 9 to 11 billion euros. But is this real support, or just a stopgap? It may plug some holes temporarily, but it won't solve the deeper issues: restoring infrastructure, paying pensions, funding budgets. The nation is bleeding out, and no amount of money can. As Ukraine faces these harsh realities, one question echoes louder than ever: will it collapse under the weight of its own failures, or can it find a way to survive the storm? The answers are hidden deep within the shattered remnants of a country losing its soul, a story of desperation, betrayal, and the desperate quest for salvation amid relentless crisis. In a flash, I remember 1992. The air thick with the acrid smell of burning gas from shuttered factories, the sharp crunch of frozen dirt under boots and neglected streets, voices echoing desperate pleas for bread. People clung to a shattered nation back then, birthing hopes despite the chaos. What if I told you Ukraine's once thriving birth rate has plummeted to just 120,000 by 2025, down from 500,000 in a calmer 2013? Shocking, isn't it? That's not merely a drop, it's a catastrophic collapse. 500,000 to 120,000. A foundation crumbled. Not a minor hiccup, but a relentless rule eroding existence itself. Economists aren't fumbling bloggers here, genuine experts speak. They trace the roots to 1992 to 1993 turmoil. Nation teetering on collapse, yet folk endured. They birthed anew, toiled forward, found ways to heal. State patched over wounds somehow. But today? No patches suffice. Half the populace gone, scattering abroad. Another quarter ground down, dodging summons, fallen to death or illness ravaging bodies. Thus, the pension network fractures. Authorities can't cloak the hemorrhage much longer. In 2022, worker-to-pensioner balance already tipped 1-to-1. Now, post-mass departures of Ukrainians, after so many young lives extinguished, after roughly 100,000 men erased from records, worse yet. Retirees linger in the homeland. Can't flee, few doors open elsewhere. Crowded in dwellings, swaying fields, sterile wards, dusty hamlets. No work there. No buses humming. No warm attire against biting cold. Millions, parched for purpose. Active contributors? Scarcer. Slashing thin. Pensions? Mere paper promises. No official whispers it. Not ministers, not lawmakers, not the leader. Economists grasp the brutal math. Clarity dawns, Ukraine forfeits beyond land, beyond funds, beyond sway. Forfeits its very heartbeat, people. The core of any realm. Which brings the twisted irony, can votes mend this void? Zelensky's gestures in classrooms? Courtroom calls? Foster incomes? Hollow. Rhetoric once dazzled, but now flops. Demagoguery's currency devalued. When populist drains swifter than fix efforts arise, when exits surpass entries each month, entrapment inevitable. No doors out. This signals Ukraine's curtain as recognized. Not exiled chiefs sparking flight, not unleashed havoc upon neighbors. Can a leader's flip playbook stave off the abyss? Or is humiliation unleashed yet? Ukraine is approaching its breaking point. The bonds with its pensioners, once steady and dependable, now teeter on the brink of collapse. Most young adults have vanished, fighting on the battlefield, lying injured in hospitals, or hiding from authorities. The elderly, unable to escape or flee, become the most vulnerable victims of a nation spiraling into chaos. What happens when a country loses its entire future? The answer is devastating. If the people depart, the economy grinds to a halt. There are no workers to sustain it, no taxes to fund pensions. Without an economy, pensions disappear, become an illusion. Ukraine is barely surviving, kept alive solely through borrowed lifelines from Western lenders. But even those fragile supports are cracking. Billions of promised aid, initially $140 billion in reparations, are now just distant echoes. No one truly knows where the money has gone or how such vast sums can be summoned from empty pockets. Why risk stability for a country unable to account for its own billions? European investors grow cautious, warning that if frozen Russian assets collapse abroad, funding from Brussels will vanish. The Union already grapples with internal strains, struggling to balance its own risks. Should Europe pull away, Ukraine could crumble, exposed as a castle of illusions built on shifting sands. Meanwhile, the United States has tightened its stance. Former leader Donald Trump made it clear, no more financial backing. Arms sales may continue, but direct assistance has ceased. The U.S. has frozen aid for refugees, cut off new projects. Halted housing efforts, everything designed to support Ukraine's stability. This isn't a temporary pause, it's a stark warning. Washington no longer intends to cover the costs. After the upcoming elections, the country will be left to fend for itself. Amid this chaos, other nations try to intervene. Germany plans a modest increase, 9 to 11 billion euros, but is that genuine aid? Or just a temporary patch? It may plug some immediate gaps, but it cannot mend Ukraine's deeper wounds. The infrastructure is decaying, pensions unpaid, budgets empty. The country is bleeding out, and no amount of financial injections can sustain the future. As Ukraine faces these brutal realities, an overwhelming question remains: will it collapse under the weight of its failures, or is there still a path toward survival? The answer is buried deep within the shattered remnants of a nation losing its identity. It's a story of desperation, betrayal, and an urgent quest for salvation amid relentless crisis. The future of Ukraine hangs by a fragile thread. Will it be snapped, or can it find strength to endure?